The White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce and On Location TV 19 are proud to present Your Business Matters, dedicated to your business needs. The White Bear Area Chamber is a nonprofit business organization serving as an advocate for the White Bear area and its business community. Now, here is the Executive Director of the White Bear Area Chamber and the host of Your Business Matters, Tom Snell.
Welcome to Your Business Matters, brought to you by the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce. Each month, we interview community leaders and local business owners so you can be informed about the developments in our community. This month, I'm pleased to welcome State Senator Roger Chamberlain from Senate District 38. Roger's Senate District takes in much of the White Bear Lake area, White Bear Township, Hugo, and Lionel Lakes. Thank you for joining us today on Your Business Matters.
Thank you. Always good to be here. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. I want to get right into some of the things, the developments that are happening, not only in the election, but overall in our state government. Mm-hmm. And let's start out with, without trying to sound like inside politics, there's something that's called a special session that happens from time to time when the legislature does not complete their work. Now, my understanding is that this session, the legislature did not complete their work on time. Is that correct?
Well, I would hate to disagree with you, but special session can be called by the governor for any reason he sees fit.
Okay, all right.
It could be a state emergency, a natural disaster, or anything like that.
So why was there a potential need to have a special session this time around?
This time around, there was a bonding bill that the Minnesota House of Representatives passed towards the end of session, last day, last minutes, last hour, and it came over to the Senate to get passed. So it passed in the House, bipartisan vote, came over to the Senate, and the Senate Democrats, without getting too political, that's a fact, put an amendment on there in the last 3 minutes, and by that time it was too late. The bill changed and it died because it couldn't set. The House had adjourned for the season, and we were left with a bill that was not compatible with it.
So what did they put onto this bill that made it at the last minute?
They put on a controversial piece. The House and everybody had negotiated a final agreement to a bonding bill that was satisfactory to everybody. When they came over to the Senate Democrats, the urban Democrats, put on an amendment to fund light rail, Southwest Light Rail.
Is that the rail project that is over in the western suburbs?
It is. It comes from planned from Eden Prairie to Minneapolis, $2 billion for 20 miles, and currently under lawsuit. So the federal government was going to fund it anyway because it's encumbered by a lawsuit.
Okay, so the federal government typically would put some money into this type of a project, right? How much money were they asking for from the state of Minnesota?
Well, I don't understand. I don't know the exact number for the match, but a certain number of dollars from the state and then the local folks. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember the exact number of dollars from the state, but it wasn't huge. Nonetheless, it did not they put the amendment on. The bill was changed, so they couldn't pass it on.
Isn't that I mean, and I don't want to get into Republican or Democrat stuff, but isn't it kind of unusual for people to pass bills when they don't know what's in the bill? Should there be enough time for somebody to actually study what is going on to legislation before we actually spend money to move forward with it?
Well, that's a quick thing. I was ready to vote for the bonding bill until it came over and I looked at this amendment they were going to put on, and then it passed only because Democrats have majority. But that being the case, I wish it was unusual and infrequent that was the case, that we got these big bills that we couldn't read. But it's not. It's not unusual. It's not infrequent. Towards the end of session, every year, the same sort of nonsense. They jam all these things together everybody wants, and the last minute, and we get 200-page bills dropped on the desk that we're supposed to vote on and say, okay, this is great, and everybody wants it. And you're right. It should not be that way. It should not work that way, but it does work that way every session.
Well, maybe what we need is some bipartisan view on that we shouldn't pass things if we don't know what's in them. I mean, that just seems to be a kind of a natural thing or idea.
We've learned the hard way that when you do that, when you pass things, you don't know all the details, you end up making mistakes. That's happened a couple times during my tenure. We've had to go back. Well, I wasn't, just for the record, I wasn't responsible for that.
Okay.
We had to go back and undo those things, those mistakes and those errors. So I wish it was.
Now, I mean, thank you again for supporting the bonding bill. You know, before the new bonding, the last minute bonding request is put in. And let's look at a couple things that were in the bonding bill that directly relate to our area here in the White Bear and vicinity.
Right.
One of them related to transportation,
Right.
and that would be rail transportation.
Yes.
And I wanted just to bring up to you that there are several significant businesses in our area that actually rely on having these what they call commercial rail hubs or rail spikes in our area. And so there was legislation, I think, in the bonding bill to support that, and thank you for supporting it. And I want to get your idea kind of in that area, number one, why you think it's important, and number two, what do you think its prospects are for the future?
Well, it's important because rail is an important part of our transportation infrastructure. It's an important part of our economy. It's vital to our economy. Rail is vital. The short lines have a difficult economic situation.
And the short line rail is the one that's local here, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So we have a local one. They have them around the state, but they're vital to the local economies, but they're difficult economically to sustain. Now, we can discuss for this short line in particular, it supports hundreds of jobs in the Hugo area.
Right.
It's a short run, and several companies up there depend on it, and it makes the operations, the business possible, and makes it much less expensive and costly to do. So it's important for that reason, for jobs, economy, for the region, and it's transportation. So.
And I understand that a lot of the other states around us have gotten they realize the value of commercial rail.
Right.
Yep.
Well, way back, the federal government has recognized that it's a national security issue. They put rail in a certain category, and rightfully so. In states and counties, Minnesota and many counties have rail authorities, regional rail authorities, not for light rail but for freight rail. And some surrounding states have created a quasi-public-private partnership to run those short lines to make sure that vital infrastructure remains running for those local communities.
Yeah. Now, before we go into our break, Roger, I also wanted to find out, what do you think some of the big issues that are facing our area are from your perspective?
And from our area right here,
yes.
Right? Well, we got to address the water issue, of course, and there was some money, a little bit of money in the bonding bill for the water issue. The study's coming out soon, so the water issue here, groundwater, surface water, that sort of thing, the local rail issue. I think certain tax and business issues are very important to the area, as well as across the state. So, education, I'd say, first, ensure local areas, local issues, water, the Hugo Rail, but also we're impacted greatly by, of course, ensure healthcare issues and tax issues, as well as educational issues.
And we're going to get into the issues related to healthcare shortly, because that is one of the premier things that is confronting our local business community. So, Senator Roger Chamberlain, we're going to take a brief break before proceeding with more questions. Now, I have a quick announcement about a very important event that's coming up. Next Tuesday, on October 18th, from 8 to 9 a.m., the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring a candidates debate. It will take place at the Vadnais Heights Country Inn. It's free to attend, and a continental breakfast will be served. Visit the Chamber website for more details. Hyperlink Chamber website is www.whitebearchamber.com. The Chamber offers a number of events which are open to the public. We invite you to participate. Take a look at our Chamber website. Welcome back to Your Business Matters, and Roger Chamberlain, State Senator. Want to get back into a couple of other issues that are really important to our community. And number one, health care. Recently, I read that Minnesotans who rely on individual insurance companies, and that is a lot of our local small business people, are going to face astronomical increases in their health insurance premiums, surpassing 50% if they're even able to get coverage, because some of the insurance companies, I understand, are capping the amount of individual insurance coverage they're actually going to offer. That is serious. Even the governor's office said it's a very, very, very serious problem that we need to deal with. Now, what are we going to do?
Yeah, what are we going to do? I'll save the finger pointing for later, but I'll just say this, is that there was no reason for us to be in this position. There's three ways, there were a couple ways right now for people to get health care insurance. If you're super poor, if you're poor, low income, you go to MNsure, you get subsidies, right?
Is that Medicaid?
Right now, Medicaid, and we had an MCHA thing here, but it's not as it used to be. But you go through that and you'd get a government subsidy, or you get taken care of by the government.
Okay.
Most of the people on MNsure came from that, and we're already on public programs as it was. So if you go to MNsure, if you were in the individual market, private market, and you went to anybody can go to MNsure. It's just you can go to the website, but you're not going to get the subsidies.
It's a lot of times it's hard to get through to MNsure.
Well, there's a lot of problems with this thing, but most importantly, you're right, Tom. It's at a crisis. The Commissioner, Department of Commerce,
so this is a crisis that, both parties say that we're in a crisis right now.
Yeah.
So
right, and the governor said this morning that the Affordable Health Care Act is not so affordable. Well, he bought into it. He sold it. He did everything he could to get it, and now we got more than 200,000 Minnesotans who are going to face drastic increases if they can get insurance at all. They will be out there without any insurance coverage, or they'll have to take the one that's out there at an astronomical cost. This is abysmal, it's devastating, it's criminal. So what are we going to do to fix it? There's not a lot of quick fixes. The only way to keep prices down and products, quality products and services out there is through individual healthcare ideas, where you put healthcare back in charge of the individuals, put them in charge of healthcare, market-based solutions, and then you can still have a reinsurance high-risk market for those that pre-existing conditions or are too poor to afford it. We could do that. We were doing it before. What this has done now, what the ACA has done and what MNsure has done, is they've destroyed that. And now we're left with a crisis, and most people aren't going to be able to afford it. They're not going to have insurance, and the costs of healthcare are going to go up astronomically. I've talked to doctors and nurses who are saying they're not going to go into the business, they're going to get out of the business because it's a mess. So there's no quick, easy fixes. This idea that we can get a special session on November 9th and have it fixed by November 10th, that's pie in the sky, because you got to go through a lot of processes to get things approved and done. Unless we waive all those steps by the Department of Commerce, it takes a long time to get that reestablished.
This might not have anything to do with the price of health care, but it has to do directly with health care. I understand that the cost for running MNsure, and for those that don't know, MNsure is the body that oversees in Minnesota what would be the Affordable Care Act that a lot of people refer to as Obamacare.
Right.
I understand that it costs about, what, $100 million to operate or was to set up?
They've spent $300 million so far since the beginning to get it running and to make it function, and they still haven't got it functioning. They just had, just in the last couple of weeks, they asked 45,000 people to reapply. I mean, there's a lot of problems with it. No need to go through all those, but short story is it's inefficient, it's ineffective, and a lot of people have suffered. People have died. They've gone without insurance for months.
It costs a lot of money too, right?
Something that private sector companies have been able to. You can go to Amazon, right? You can go online and you can order a radio on Monday online and click of a button and get it shipped to your house, and you'll be done.
So
not with MNsure.
the question I have for you is, we have MNsure.
Yep.
We have the federal exchange. The governor, who's a Democrat, has said that there are problems with MNsure. Maybe we don't need it. This is coming from the head of the Democratic Party. A lot of Republicans have called for getting rid of MSHA, saving the money, or MNsure, saving the money that you would get from MNsure, and just going over to a federal exchange. So if you've got the governor that's saying it might be a good idea, and you've got, I would imagine there are a lot of Republicans that think that having a statewide exchange is not a good idea. Why do we have it?
Well, they got, we argued against it to start with, but we have it because people, look, I'll be honest, a lot of businesses, a lot of folks said we had to have a Minnesota exchange, otherwise we get sucked into a federal exchange.
Right.
It is a federal program. MNsure is a duplicate of a federal. It exists because of ACA. So that's why we have it. Frankly, a lot of big businesses and others said we need to have our own, otherwise we're going to force the federal exchange. So that's what we got. We argued against that as well. So what are we going to do? Barring a repeal of ACA in the next 6 months after the election, whatever happens, we'd have to, secondly, get a waiver to get off of it altogether. And I don't
What
see
do you
that
mean
happening.
a waiver?
A waiver would say Minnesota has a program, we can take care of our own. We don't need, we ask for a waiver to not to partake or participate in ACA. We ask not to be bound to ACA law. So we would run our own process and own system. So barring repeal or the waiver, we'll probably have to go to a federal exchange to just drop into that. But that might be the quick fix. But and it might bring back some of the private insurers and lower the cost a bit. But there's no quick solutions to these costs.
To helping these small businesses that are facing these catastrophic increases.
Well, what some things we're going to ask for tax exempt deductions for these premiums and
statewide though, just not federal,
right,
so they get
statewide.
state money back.
So now that gives some breaks. There could be credits in there, but the other side of the argument is that, you give an exemption and deduction, that means your revenues drop. So I'm not opposed to that, but that'll be a political battle. So those are a couple things you can do. Go federal exchange, exemptions, deductions, reinsurance market, but none are going to be quick fixes before January.
Yeah, that's a very, very serious problem that will fester, I'm sure, in the future. How about taxes on small business? You've got some companies are the income that the business owner gets are they use to buy equipment, they use to employ people, but they're still taxed on the money that they get for as regular income taxes.
Right.
Is there anything to take a look at that issue maybe, or some of the other, we have very high property taxes for business, commercial, industrial, anything in that area?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We've been working for 6 years, one way or another, to get some reform in the business property tax in the state of Minnesota. It was very punitive, very egregious. and one of the worst in the country, if not the worst.
Yep.
Very expensive to the state of Minnesota, business in the state. Sometimes up to half their property tax bill. So you could freeze inflators. You could. We had a bill one year to discontinue it slowly over 10 years, take it out, assist out of this process, out of the law, and that would. That's one quick step. The others there's certainly other exemptions and deductions for equipment and services and stuff like that. And the third part, you kind of mentioned pass-through. A lot of small businesses are pass-through, LLCs or S-corps. And
right, exactly.
And so they get missed by some of this stuff, and so the business income, what's left over, gets pushed over to them, and they get the high personal income tax. So
yeah.
So you're right. There's several things we can do, and we have attempted some in the past. There's some new things we can do in the future. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that gives a shot in the arm to small business and entrepreneurs across the state.
Absolutely. Now, Senator Chamberlain, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way that they could connect with you if they've got any questions about legislation or what some of the priorities we have for our Senate district might be?
The easiest way is to Google Minnesota State Senate, and you can find your list of legislators right there. And I'm in there. I don't send myself emails. Senator sen.rogerchamberlain.min.us.
Okay.
So, but you can find the contact right online.
Yep.
State Minnesota State Senate Minnesota, and you can find who represents you or your legislator by alphabetical.
And that email address is once again.
You want me to pull on my card?
Okay. I'm sorry.
I never send myself an email. I should know it.
Yep.
All right. This is not good TV or radio, but here we go. It's sen.roger.chamberlain@senate.min. sen.roger.chamberlain@senate.min.
Thank you. This is a very illuminating discussion today. So
thank you. Always
thank you
a pleasure.
very much.
I always enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chamberlain, for joining me today. I'm Tom Snell. Thank you for watching Your Business Matters.
You've been watching Your Business Matters. For more information on this program or the White Bear Area Chamber, visit whitebearchamber.com or call 651-429-8593.